Battery 90%.
You brought her as a guest?
I did.
Well, but you're getting inducted as a member.
Am I?
Yeah.
Today? Is it today?
Yeah.
Cool.
So I'm like, yeah, nobody told you, okay. Yeah.
No, nobody told me.
I think Bonnie might have known. I mean, I knew she couldn't be here, but anyways.
She goes, well, can you bring in? I said, I'll call her.
You're gonna have to go up front and know your name. I'm just kidding. But yeah, so they're gonna call you up and you'll get a little envelope and stuff. I don't have a name tag for you yet, but yeah. So welcome.
So do I have to do anything? I would have dressed a little bit better.
This is cute. No, you're fine.
Okay.
No, I mean, I've got instructions in there, is like what you get billed and stuff like that. And we're going to do a corporate membership for C2C. So, yeah. If you have questions, my contact info's in there. So, yeah. Yes.
Are they?
They pay more, actually.
Yeah.
But it's so anybody can come.
Everybody can come.
Yeah.
All right. So then when Mary asks for any guests, I don't introduce Jen.
Correct. Yes. Because you're a member now, so even though you haven't met everybody, well, everybody knows you. So, all right.
Okay. Nice to know.
Yes. Hey there. Check, check, check.
You have me at a spot already.
I did, but the cops sat there.
Welcome everyone to the May 11th meeting of the Rotary Club of Marshalltown. It's wonderful to have a full room again and to see each of you. I'm going to ask John Fink if he would lead us in the prayer and pledge.
Thank you, President Mary. First of all, I'd like to wish a belated Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers. Hopefully you had a good weekend with your families. And also Thanksgiving for the rain that we received and the sunny days afterwards.
John, I don't know if you can hear me, but we can't hear you. If you want to give us a second. Got it? Okay.
Okay. First of all, I'd like to wish a belated Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers. Hopefully you had a great weekend. And also Thanksgiving to the rain that we received earlier and the sunny days afterwards. Please pray with me. Thank you, Lord, for the many blessings in our lives, especially the ones we don't thank you for at the time we receive them. May we be good stewards of our time, talent, and treasure to help those less fortunate than us. As Rotarians and caring individuals, let us live in service to others, our community, state, nation, and the world. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible,
With liberty and justice for all. Thank you, John. I believe we have some guests today. First of all, I want to welcome again Floyd and Kathy Hammer, who are members of the Des Moines Club. I want to give everybody a wave. It's nice to have you here again with us. Do we have any other guests today?
We have Kelly Kemp, who's going to be inducted in a few minutes, and then Sheriff Joel Phillips, making his first public appearance.
Thank you. Welcome to you. Do we have anybody on Zoom? Nope. Okay. Very good. We are excited.
You'll introduce him.
Okay. We are very excited to have another new member induction time now. So Jim Goodman, if you would come forward and our new members.
Limping. Well, good afternoon and welcome to Rotary. It's my pleasure to give the new inductees the charge. Would the inductees come forward, please? In giving the charge, I think it's important to tell you some things about Rotary. You'll learn some more things when you go to what's called the fireside chat. But to begin with, I'll tell you that Rotary was founded in 1905 by Paul Harris, an attorney, right, in Chicago in the Unity Building. Today, there are more than 35,000 clubs. There's more than 1.2 million Rotarians in the world. Rotary's stated purpose is to bring together business and professional leaders to provide a human service, advance goodwill, and peace in the world. Our motto is service above self. Rotary is not what you would call a fraternity or a secret society. There's no secret handshake, no passwords or anything like that. We're a completely open book. This club, Marshalltown, number 185, was chartered in 1915, which was no small feat because we were a pretty small town. I think we were one of the smallest towns to get a charter back then, and we had to push it to get it.
Are you old enough to remember that, Jim?
I am. And insurance people sometimes. I know, I hear you, Kelly. Rotary does good both locally and worldwide. We have a program called Josh the Otter, which we put on that goes into the schools and teaches young children about, the dangers of water and swimming in the rivers and creeks and things like that. We have Shop with a Cop. We have a food drive, which is coming up. We have a program called Coats for Kids, where we provide disadvantaged kids with winter coats and things like that. We have an African water project that we've been involved in. And you probably know that Rotary's been involved in Polio Plus, the effort in conjunction with Gates and those people to eliminate polio from the world. Aside from that, being in this Rotary Club, you'll have an opportunity to see great programs, associate with great people, and great fellowship. Give you your Rotary pin, wear it with pride, and strive to live by the four-way test, which is set forth up here, and we'll recite it at the end of the program. I told you about the fireside chat, and give of yourselves. There's numbers of ways you can give to Rotary. You can support it financially, you can support it in your efforts. Our code word is, when a Rotarian's asked, they never say no. So I welcome all four of you to Rotary, and let's stand as a club and give them a round of applause.
Okay.
Dismissed.
Thank you very much and welcome. One of the things that we ask our new members to do is a vocational talk. Okay, here it goes, vocational talk. Todd Steinkamp, right into the mic, he taught me that. A little bit about me, I grew up in Jewell, Iowa, which is about 20 minutes north of Ames. I had a very large graduating class of 42. I then went to the University of Iowa, where my first class had more students than my hometown. So it was kind of a big change. I got my bachelor's and master's from Iowa in accounting. A little bit about my family. I am pleased to say my parents are finally retired. They were attorneys in Jewell up until the age of 83 last year, and the pandemic finally closed the office. So they are shuttered. They're now living in Ames and really getting used to retired life. I have one sister, her name is Jill. She's known as Dr. Jill. She's a veterinarian in Minneapolis. Her husband is Dr. Chris. He's also a veterinarian and he teaches at the collegiate level. They have 4 children, 2 biological and 2 are adopted from Russia. A lot of you know my husband, so when I meet people, I get the question, are you Kevin's wife? I always ask, is it good or bad? And then I answer, but yes, I am Kevin's wife. We're celebrating 31 years of marriage this month. He will be celebrating 30 years of practice of law July 1st. So a lot to celebrate this year. We enjoy traveling, anything Hawkeye, go Hawks.
Go Hawks.
Thank you. And also biking. We bike with pedals, not with motors.
And a little bit about my vocation. So a little over 2 years ago, I would have talked to you about accounting. Pretty darn boring, right? I was a corporate accountant at Emerson, and post-tornado, by August 1st, I knew that I wasn't gonna end my career there. I was gonna make a career change to help our community recovery. Thankfully, at that same time, the Community Foundation had received a grant from the Martha Ellen Ty Foundation to hire their first full-time director. Very blessed to get that position. I am one of 3 directors in kind of our under our host foundation. So Marshall County is very, very lucky to have a full-time director. A little bit about my vocation and the foundation. Our goal is to make Marshall County a better place to live, learn, work, and play. We do that with time, talent, and treasure. Kind of our 4 pillars are, we have endowments. Those are funds held by individuals and organizations. We currently have 88 funds valued at $7.3 million. More importantly, those funds dispersed over $572,000 last year, and the most of that stayed right here in Marshall County. Our second pillar is our grant making, and that's what I knew about the foundation. I had applied for grants on behalf of nonprofits, and we grant out typically $80,000 to $100,000 each year. Over the past 15 plus years, that's been $1.45 million that have gone to organizations right here in Marshall County. Our community leadership looks a lot different than unfortunately a lot of other community foundations. It's very disaster philanthropy centered. We have the Rebuild Marshalltown Fund for long-term tornado relief. That fund, thanks to many in this room, received donations of about $800,000. We started the Marshall County Disaster Recovery Fund in May for COVID. Again, thanks to very generous donors, it got a great kickoff, and then it became a dual fund. We're one of the few in Iowa with a dual recovery fund, so we also have derecho in there. We did relief grants, and soon we'll be announcing derecho recovery grants. So if you know of a nonprofit that's got some recovery to do, please make sure they contact me to learn about the grant opportunities. Our final pillar I could talk about for hours, and that's our student philanthropy. Those are high school juniors, sophomores, juniors, and seniors. They typically have 10 to 15 members. Again, we teach time, talent, and treasure to those students. Many of the student Rotarians you saw come through here this year are members of the STEP program, which is sponsored by Martha Ellen Ty and the Community Foundation. And then Noah Hermanson is a 3-year member of STEP, just met with them last night. He's one of our leaders. So we think we're really building philanthropy leaders for tomorrow. So that's a little about me and my vocation. Thank you for letting me be a member of Rotary. Obviously my personal quest this last part of my career really aligns with what Rotary does. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Julie. By the way of announcements, last week we had a total of 62 people attending our meeting, 44 in person and 18 on Zoom. Just a reminder that if you have not filled out the pink sheet on your table, be sure that you do that. You can register that you were here today, as well as pre-register for next Tuesday. Also on your table are some half sheets. Sign up. We have some goals that we've committed ourselves to, and we need your participation financially to meet those goals. So please be sure to fill out the part on the bottom that says your name, and then indicate whether you're pledging or attaching money or how you'd like to handle your contribution. But we're hoping you'll get us over the final finish line on that. Also, Betty Bowler is here to tell us about another sign-up sheet on your table. Where are you, Betty? There she is.
Thanks, Mary. I think last week Mary mentioned the flower basket watering project that our People of Action Committee has signed us up for. The date has changed. Oh, excuse me, the date has changed. We are now doing July 25th through the 31st. But luckily, one of those days is already taken. So we only have to fill 6 days that week. Did you miss the flower baskets last year? Because they weren't up? Yeah, I did too. Every time I drove downtown, I missed seeing them. So they're back this year. It takes about 475 hours of volunteer time to make our Main Street look beautiful with those flower baskets. So I think Rotary can probably come up with about 28 hours of that to volunteer. And remember, Mr. Goodman said, Rotarians never say no, all right? So on your table are sign-up sheets. It takes 2 people. It takes about 2 hours. Well, it takes 2 people for most of us. I think there are a few guys who do it by themselves, but it takes 2 people. It takes about 2 hours. You do it early in the morning. Usually start about 6, so we're off the streets by the time business gets going in the morning. It's fun. My husband and I have done it for many years. Julie and I worked together 2 years ago on several mornings. It's a beautiful time of the day. If you're not a morning person, which I'm not, just, give it a try for a couple of days in a year and you'll find out how beautiful the mornings are. It also can be fun. We often went out for breakfast afterwards or went out for coffee afterwards. So if you find a buddy from Rotary that you're going to sign up with, you can make an event out of it. There will be training. My husband will be available for any troubleshooting. So you don't feel like you get out there in the morning and you're all on your own. You've got somebody to call if you need to. And I'll have more details about what it takes as it gets a little closer, but please consider signing up. It's a good activity to involve your kids or grandkids in. Larry McKibben said he thought it was awfully hard work, and yeah, it's some work, but I said, just, you drive the gator and get a young person to walk along with the watering wand and teaches those kids some community service as well. So thank you, sign up, and we'll have lots of fun this summer.
Thank you, Debbie. We've had a special request for news today, so Todd, if you can make it short, looking at our time, we'll appreciate it.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. Some breaking news. Just a few hours ago, Governor Kim Reynolds announced new measures to address the state of Iowa's severe workforce shortage. Effective June 12, 2021, the state of Iowa will end its participation in federal pandemic-related unemployment benefits program. Iowa will continue to provide regular state unemployment insurance benefits to those eligible under the applicable state code. Governor Reynolds said regular unemployment benefits will remain available as they did before the pandemic, but it's time for everyone who can get back to work to get back to work. This country needs to look to the future, and Iowa intends to lead the way. Speaking of the governor's office, they are confirming that the person in charge of the Iowa Veterans Home in Marshalltown has been fired. A spokesperson for Governor Kim Reynolds confirmed that Timon Ojiri was removed from his post last week. Ojiri was appointed by Reynolds to head the home in 2017, which is one of the largest state-owned nursing homes in the country. There's no word from the governor's office on why he was fired. Gas prices, fun, huh? In Polk County, lower than average in the state. According to GasBuddy.com, prices are up in the last week, and it's unclear if prices will continue after that cyber attack shutdown of the nation's biggest fuel pipeline network last Friday. GasBuddy's Fuel Insight shows the average price for a gallon in Polk County is $2.79. Story and Lynn counties are about $2.79. In Marshalltown, I just looked at GasBuddy before I came here, $2.84 is the average. The average price in Iowa is $2.82. Iowa's gas prices are the 17th least expensive in the U.S. The Internal Revenue Service says it has more than $1.3 billion in unclaimed tax refunds for an estimated 1.3 million people. The unclaimed refunds are for people who did not file the 2017 Form 1040 federal tax return. The window to file the 2017 returns is May 17th. And maybe I'm going to steal Chief Tupper's thunder here a little bit, but it is National Police Week when it comes to, well, I'm getting to that too. When it comes to Marshalltown, Police Chief Mike Tupper is thankful for the support the community gives his department. Chief Tupper asked that you take a moment this week to thank all law enforcement folks that serve us in Central Iowa. I'm not going to speak for everyone. I'm going to speak for myself, but I think I speak for everyone. And Sheriff Phillips is here now as well too. I'm like a 5-year-old when I see an officer. I'm like in awe of the cool. Just like it's so cool to see the men and women in blue, and in your case, brownish, greenish. But I would encourage everyone to please stand and give our police officers a round of applause, please. And a joke. I'm not done yet, Tom.
Go ahead.
All right. Just give us like a mushroom. A mushroom walks into a bar. The bartender says, "Hello, what do you need?" Mushroom says, "A beer." Bartender says, "I'm sorry, we don't serve mushrooms here." Mushroom says, "Why not? I'm a fun guy."
Lousy. I asked Chief Tupper if I could let his wife introduce him, and he started shaking and crying. So I don't think he needs introduction, except I will say this. I consider him a friend. I consider him a strong man, a good man, a law enforcement man who supports our community, and that's important to me. And I love talking to him because I think he's a straight shooter. So that's why I asked him to come back and talk to us more about policing in today's world. And he brought along some of his finest. And so that's all I'm going to say. Chief Tupper, you're up.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for having me here. And I would have been here anyway for lunch as a member, but I appreciate it. First thing I want to do is congratulate the new members. I'm not sure how 2 Tuppers got into this club, but I promise you got the best one, so put her to work. And congratulations to the new members for joining. And I brought some friends with me today. So off to my farthest right is Captain Brian Batterson. Brian has served the Marshalltown Police Department for 30 years. And currently Brian is in charge of our operations division. And basically that means anything that's uniform patrol. Does a great job for us, great leader, and very happy to be able to serve with Brian. Next to Brian is Lieutenant Kyle Stevenson. I've had the opportunity to promote Kyle twice in 10 years. So a couple of the better decisions that I've made while I've been here. Kyle does a great job for us. He works in uniform patrol and is currently in charge of our night shift team. Kyle has served our department on 2 occasions as a canine officer and has also served our department admirably for many, many years on the tactical team. And I had to twist his arm here recently to get him to move away from the tactical team so we could help develop some other opportunities for him. So Kyle does a great job for us. And then Lieutenant Sadie Weekly is also here today. And Sadie is also in uniform patrol. She's in charge of our day shift. And she's served our department many, many, many years very well as well. When I got here, Sadie was a detective. And Sadie is well known within the state of Iowa for her skill and knowledge in the area of domestic violence and sexual assault investigations. She would be considered an expert in our state, in any state, quite frankly. And she instructs at the Iowa Law Enforcement Academy. Does a great job for us. So I'm glad that they were able to join us. I also invited Captain Chris Jones, who many of you know. He's in charge of support services, which is everything else in the police department that's not uniform patrol. And then Lieutenant Tricia Tyne, she's in charge of our detective unit. They couldn't be here today because we have a murder trial starting next week and they're busy preparing for that. So it was important to me though that you all, as leaders of the community, get an opportunity to see the leaders of the police department and the future of the police department. And I've been here just about 10 years now. And I can promise you this. Anything good that we've done in the 10 years that I've been here, it's because they did it. Anything bad that we've done, it was probably my idea and forget about that. They had nothing to do with it. But they do a great job. And so Brian is close to retirement, and he could retire if he wanted to. I hope he doesn't. And Kyle and Sadie are the future of our police department, along with Chris Jones and Tricia Tynes. So I hope you'll get other opportunities to see them. And this is National Police Week, and I just want to thank them for everything that they do for us and for our community. They do a great job. So. So when they walked in today, a couple of people said, "Hey, we can't wait to hear your presentation." I didn't tell them they were presenting. So I promised them they don't have to present. I just invited them for lunch and an opportunity to get to meet everybody. So Tom had asked me we kind of had a discussion a few months ago about policing in America and some of the challenges that we face in the 21st century. And so I thought I would come back and we talk a little bit more about that. It's a good week to be talking about that, Police Week. National Police Officer Memorial Day is May 15th. It's May 15th every year. And so Police Week is always the week that has May 15th in it. And I told the City Council last night, as we recognized our Police Department Employee of the Year, Stephen Sheets, Police Week is an important week for me and for anybody that wears a uniform. And last year in the United States, 306 police officers were killed in the line of duty. It's a big number. Now, COVID-19 had a big role to play in that number. But on average, over the last decade, 176 police officers are killed in the United States every year. And COVID was a big challenge last year, but the cops in the room would tell you that there's a lot of other challenges, and it seems like violence against police is increasing, much more so than what we were facing when my career first started nearly 29 years ago. So far this year, there's been roughly, I think, 91 police officers have been killed in line of duty so far this year. 93 police officers in this country have been shot. 23 of those shot have been killed. There's been a lot of those shootings are the result of ambush attacks. So police officers are facing ambushes now. Like these are things that you kind of think of in war zones, right? These are things that our cops are now facing. So thankfully, Marshalltown and Marshall County are very safe communities. And it's a great community to be a police officer, by the way. I can't thank you enough for the opportunity that I have every day to serve this community. This has been the thrill of my life to be able to work here. And I love my job. I love wearing this uniform. I love coming to work every day. I'm going to retire pretty soon. And so we're starting to think about succession planning. And so that's one of the reasons I wanted these folks here today, because again, future leaders of the department, you need to get to know them. So I thought I mentioned to Tom that I would talk a little bit about some myths versus realities when it comes to our job. And one of the biggest things that you hear in the media right now as it relates to law enforcement is defunding. A lot of communities are talking about defunding the police, defunding law enforcement. I'm not sure that everybody understands what that really means to them or what they want it to mean, but you hear a lot about defunding the police. And I'm happy to report that our city council and elected officials here, they're not having those kind of conversations. But I think it's important that our communities know that our police departments and our sheriff's offices generally are underfunded. We're understaffed. And if you defund us, I don't think people really understand what that means. It means less people. I think a lot of folks think it means that we're going to give money to other organizations or other programs and the cops will do something else. No, for us, if we have those conversations, and this is any community in the United States, if you have a defunding conversation, it means less cops. We have a budgeted strength in terms of police officers of 42 police officers, budgeted. I have an authorized strength of 43, but we've been budgeted for 42 for most of my tenure. I have worked for 50 minimum. We could keep 50 cops busy easy. We answer roughly 800 calls for service a week. And those calls can range anything from, because we did this yesterday, somebody had chickens and they're not supposed to have chickens in their yard. We do those calls, or it could be a shooting or a murder. And I just mentioned I have people preparing for murder trial that's going to begin next week, and everything in between. So when we talk about defunding, what ends up happening is I just have less people, okay? Because in the 10 years that I've been here, I have an annual budget of over $5 million. That's a lot of money, right? It's a lot of money. 85% of that goes to people. Salaries, benefits, insurance, all that good stuff. The rest goes to the things that we need to do our job. And that bucket of money that we used to do our job hasn't increased really at all over the last 10 years. Now my budget goes up every year because salaries go up, or the cost of insurance goes up, cost of benefits go up. But the money that we use to train police officers, equip police officers, buy office supplies, pay for stuff that we need to do our job, that bucket is basically the same as it was 10 years ago. In fact, it's less this year because this coming fiscal year, I'll have less training money and I have less money for vehicles. And so in the year 2021, after all that has happened in 2020, communities want police officers to do more training, and we do a lot of training, but I have less training money going into next year because we have to balance budgets, and that's important. And I understand that as the police department, we are just one part of a larger city organization, and I preach to these guys, it's one team, okay? We're not a silo among ourselves, but we have limited resources. So defunding just really doesn't work. I mean, it wouldn't work here. It doesn't work in Chicago. It doesn't work anywhere in the country. And I think we have to have more conversations about how we can fund our law enforcement agencies sufficiently so they have the people that they need. And then they can do the programs that you all want us to do, like the training, like the great program that we're piloting right now with YSS, Marshall County. We have a program where we're working with social workers. That's what everybody wants us to do. And I want to do that, by the way. I think it's a great idea. We have funding for 1 year, and we're already 5 months into that year. And I don't know what year 2 is going to hold. We might not be able to do that. But if we keep talking about defunding our law enforcement, you're going to see less programs. And so in the time that I've been a police officer, and again, that's almost 29 years, I can remember a time where I could pick up a phone and call the Iowa Department of Human Services for just about any kind of family or child problem and get some help. Really can't do that anymore. I can remember a time where social services agencies in our communities had much more funding and much more support. It seems like over the past 20 years, there's less and less of that. And mental health is a big problem in our community. So is poverty. Guess who gets a lot of the mental health and poverty calls in this community? It's 911, okay? Because services are so limited for people, even in Marshall County, where we have a lot of great programs, by the way. Services are so limited that the first call resort has become 911. And that should really have been the last call resort. But when people need help with a social service problem, they're calling 911. It's because they have no other options. And it's usually because these problems are happening at 3 o'clock in the morning. And they need something immediate, okay? And so that's why we're piloting this project with YSS, because we're hopeful, and we're not at a 24/7 level service yet, but we're getting closer. I have a social worker in my building 7 days a week, at least 10 hours a day, and it's helping. Because before, when we needed crisis services, we would call an organization out of Des Moines, and they provided great service, by the way, and we still work with them. They still provide great service, but they had an hour response time minimum. And during COVID, they weren't responding. So during a crisis, the crisis services weren't responding. So who do you call? The cops, right? And our cops deserve better than, you know, all they can do is tell somebody, I promise you somebody might call you tomorrow, or somebody might call you Monday morning. That's the best I can do right now. When somebody's in crisis, they need that service right away. So the program that we have implemented with YSS is working really well, but it needs funding. And I do believe in the utilization of social workers. That's another hot topic right now when it comes to policing. But I don't believe that we should replace cops with social workers. And if you talk to the social workers, they don't really want to go to a lot of these calls by themselves, by the way. Okay. We're dealing with a lot of complex problems in our country. And these problems require a multidisciplinary approach. It can't just be the cops, can't just be the social workers or the crisis workers. It takes all of us working together. And what we need to get to is a scenario where I have social workers in my building 24 hours a day. I think then we're going to get a better response, and the people in our community that need help will get the help that they need in a timely manner. Social workers should be part of the answer, but they're not the only answer. I will tell you that the biggest social work agency in Marshalltown is the Marshalltown Police Department, because that's really what we do every day. You know, you call us law enforcement, and we are, but really about 20% of what we do is actually law enforcement. The other 80% is easily social work. I actually went to college to be a social worker. I found out that they didn't make much money, and I would have to stay in an office a lot. I didn't want that, so I became a cop. Now I have an office job and I'm doing social work. But I love my job. Another myth that I don't want to use up too much of my time here. Another myth is you know, the cops don't support reform. Cops don't want criminal justice reform. That's bull hockey. I've been a police chief in Iowa for 17 years. People like me have been screaming from the rooftops about reform for at least 17 years. And quite frankly, I have some mentors that are now retired. They were doing a lot longer before I got started. We want reform, and our criminal justice system needs reform. It does. There's a lot of things that we can do better. People of color are disproportionately impacted by the criminal justice system and by what I do every day. It's true. Poor people are as well, and we don't always talk about that. And people of color are disproportionately impacted by poverty, by the way. There are a lot of things that we can do better. And when I first became a cop, a couple of reasons I wanted to be a cop. I didn't think I was going to have to do public speaking. That's silly, right? I do public speaking every day, but I didn't want to do public speaking. I was going to drive fast cars fast, and I was going to get to arrest people. And I think a lot of young people, you know, they get in law enforcement, that's what they're thinking about. You know, they're watching cops on TV. For me, it was American Detective. I wanted to be a detective so bad. And that's one of the reasons I got into this business. And I was able to realize that dream. But I learned early on that if I have to arrest somebody, I failed. Crime prevention is really our job. Preventing crime is our job. And if we get to the point where we have to arrest somebody, we fail. And too many people are getting sucked into the criminal justice system because they have a drug or alcohol problem. They have a mental health problem. They're poor. They lack education. They lack job opportunities. And they get sucked into this circle of death that's very difficult to get out of. And it does impact disproportionately people of color and poor people. And so we need to fix those things. And so police officers, police chiefs, sheriffs, they've been calling for reform for a long time. We want that. We want diversion programs. We need mental health courts. We need drug courts. We need family violence courts. We need to do a better job of working with young people so we can keep them out of the system. When I first started, when it came to kids, everybody thought, oh, show them some tough, show them some tough love. We're going to show some tough love. We'll lock them up into detention for the weekend, or we'll send them to detention for a few months, and that'll fix their problem. No, it makes the problem a lot worse. A lot worse. And quite frankly, sending low-level offenders to jail makes things a lot worse for them as well. We need diversion programs so we can keep people out of jail. We can keep kids out of the system. We'll have better results. We need reform. We can do a better job. We do need jails. We do need the operation that Sheriff Phelps runs. We need prisons because, quite frankly, there's a lot of violent people out there too, and they need to be incarcerated. Okay, so another myth that we hear a lot about is let's just get rid of cops and the prison system altogether. Good luck with that. I'm moving to the mountains if you do that. Okay, because I'm sorry to report, but there are just some people that are criminals and they're violent. And we deal with them every day, and those people do need to be held accountable. But too often there are other people that, if there were a better diversion efforts available, opportunities available, we could help more people and we could keep them out of the criminal justice system. So law enforcement really does want reform. The last thing I'll mention is, there's a lot of discussion about cops being white supremacists or cops being racist. I've worked with hundreds of cops over the last 29 years. I can confidently say I've not worked with anybody that's a racist. We all have bias, and implicit bias is a real thing, and I believe in it. And in fact, we just had some training this week about implicit bias. We're talking to our police officers about the biases that can impact our decision making. It impacts all of us, by the way. It's not just cops, it's all of you as well. We all carry that around with us. But cops aren't racist. And when I hear people make accusations about a police officer stopping somebody just because of their color, I'm not going to say that it's never happened somewhere. It could happen somewhere. But I would invite you to jump in a police car, go for a ride along with us, see what we see. And when the officer gets ready to pull somebody over for some violation, you tell me if it's a man or a woman driving, if they're white, black, or Latino. Usually we don't know. And at 1 o'clock in the morning, I can pretty much guarantee you we don't know. Okay, these things happen very fast because you all are driving very fast when we stop you. And it's difficult for us to stop somebody because of the demographic. I'm not naive. I understand that maybe it's happened other places. What I'm here to tell you is it's not happening in the Marshalltown Police Department because I won't tolerate it. And when it does happen anywhere in this country, I think it's a very small fraction of the police activity that goes on in this country. There's over 800,000 police officers in this country. I will guarantee you less than 1% of those officers are people that don't represent the badge well. And those people should be gone. And we need to do a better job of getting rid of those people. But they're not in the Marshalltown Police Department. So I'm happy to answer questions. The last thing I want to say is thank you. We could not do our job without you. I believe in community policing. I believe in community outreach. And I'm going to mention one more thing about my budget. How much money do you think I get every year for our community outreach efforts? And we do a lot of it. A lot of it. You know what my budget for community outreach is? 0. So if community outreach is an important issue to you, and it should be, it is to me. I always tell people, show me your budget and I'll show you your priorities. If we want our law enforcement officers to do more with community outreach, do more with diversion programs, do more with social workers, you have to fund it. Thank you. I appreciate everything that you do for us. This is a great community. You all support us. And I'm blessed to be able to call Marshalltown home. And I keep telling my wife, I'm retiring in 3 years. She doesn't believe me. But I keep saying it out loud because I want to believe it myself, because I'm not sure that I want to walk away from this job, but it's almost time. But Marshalltown's our home, and we're going to stay here, and we're going to raise our youngest children here, and we appreciate everything you do for us. So happy to answer questions. Larry. Okay, the question is, in my opinion, which doesn't mean much, but in my opinion, why are there so many mass shootings in this country, mass murders in this country? I think a lot of it, Larry, has to do with mental health and the lack of resources available for people that need help. I'm not a gun person per se, but I support Second Amendment rights. I don't know that it's really a gun issue in this country as much as it is a mental health issue and a lack of services for people that need help. And I think we've, in a lot of ways, become numb to the mass murder problem in this country. And mass shootings now are defined as 4 or more people. So if 4 or less people, or less than 4 people are shot, we don't even really talk about those anymore. So I think it's a mental health service issue, Larry. Yeah, Carol. Right now, not really. I think the specialty courts are the way to go. Judge Haney here locally has started a, he won't want me to tell you it's a drug court, but it's a drug court, an enhanced supervision court that I'm part of. I know Captain Batterson has had some involvement in a juvenile drug court program as well. We need services like that, and they work. Okay, I went into this as a skeptic on those services. I've seen some success stories. But drug court, mental health courts, and then family violence courts, because there's so many families out there that are dealing with a lot of issues that lead to violence and violation of no contact orders and child endangerment. We need those kind of specialty courts so we can bring a multidisciplinary approach to these problems and keep people out of the justice system. You have a lot of training to do because I don't swim, but yeah, Todd.
Just curious, years ago, I was looking at the police academy, and that was a real eye-opener how
Yeah.
that situation escalated. Is that a common practice for a lot of police departments around the country, or is that something that is sporadic?
No, a lot of places have citizens academies, and we hope to have one this year, later this year. COVID-19 canceled it last year, and then we postponed it this year. But citizens academies are important. But you know what my budget is for that? 0. So we make it happen somehow. So we have a donation fund at the police department, and donations from folks like you help us fund some of this outreach effort. Yes, sir.
What about opioids?
Yeah, opioids. It's a huge problem. And so I'll go back to my the need for drug diversion and drug court answer. We don't see a lot of heroin or opioid problems here yet. It's all around us, but meth is such a huge problem here still. And meth is easy to find and it's cheap. So drugs in general are a big problem. And we need more diversion efforts. Mike.
School resource officers, you see some of these districts that are eliminating them.
Yeah. Huge mistake. And so we have a great school resource officer program here at the Marshalltown High School. And if anybody knows Rod Whitmore, he's retiring, by the way. He's trying to be really quiet about it, so I just tell as many people as I can. But Rod has done a great job for us at the high school. And I want to applaud Theron Shooting. He stepped out. He's not going to hear me applauding him. But we're expanding our school resource officer program. So in the fall, we're going to have a resource officer at the high school. But we're also going to have a resource officer that will work with Lenahan and Miller Middle School. Those programs are important because it allows us to have non-enforcement contact with people, build relationships with people, and our school resource officers historically in this community have prevented problems, have kept kids out of the justice system. We're not arresting a bunch of kids in the school system because they're working and looking for other solutions. Yes, sir.
Sir, you talked about the diversion. Give us an example. Like the drug court, now there's a diversionary program. What's the difference?
Well, drug court gives people an opportunity who have been arrested for a criminal offense to get help for their problem, whether it be alcohol or drugs, and hopefully keep them from having to revisit the criminal justice system. I've read some articles about some diversion programs, one being tried in Omaha right now with low-level offenders, people that commit misdemeanor type crimes, that sometimes they lose their driver's license or they've had some probation problems. So we give them intensive services to try to keep them from being rearrested for other offenses, get them some help, maybe get them some job training, maybe help them get back to school, maybe help them deal with the housing issue. Poverty is such a big problem in this country and in this community. And so when somebody doesn't really have a place to live, they don't have a place to support their family, what do? They commit crime, or they get involved with drugs and alcohol to kind of numb themselves. And then they have to commit crime to keep their habit going. So for those non-violent offenders, if we can find a way to keep them out of jail, we should do our best to do that. And law enforcement has a role to play in that. It's after 1, everybody probably wants to go back to work. So thank you again, everybody. I appreciate it. And if there's ever anything I can do, let me know. Thank you.
We appreciate it. Next week, our program will be Corey Strait, who's the general manager of Elmwood Country Club. Please rise and join me in repeating the 4-way test. Of the things we think, say, or do, first, is it the truth? Second, is it fair to all concerned? Third, will it build goodwill and better friendships? And fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned? I now declare our meeting adjourned. Somebody left a mask up here? Yeah.